So this has been a beautiful, beautiful place, beautiful cruise, land cruise, amazing conversations with people here. It's one of the reasons we come, is to meet with you guys and to talk and to have a good time.
Co-creating at its best.
Yes, it doesn't get better. And Tuesday, I think it was, I got sick. Came down with some stomach thing. And I've heard, other people have too. But it's not the first cruise. We've done a lot of these cruises. Not the first time this has happened. And I understand there's an extremeness with the contrast. Extreme high can potentially cause the extreme low. But I don't want to do that again. I'd kind of like the next time to be, pre-pave it better, or whatever it is that I'm maybe stuck on that you can help me to work through.
Well, the thing about that is looking back at something unpleasant only causes a dampening of your vibration now. And when you think about law of attraction and you think about momentum, then you would only want to dampen unpleasant things while you're wanting to heighten pleasant things. And so it's interesting how it's past, you're feeling great, you're in a whole different feeling place, you feel wonderful, and you say, Abraham, now that I'm visiting with infinite intelligence, let's go back and revisit something not wanted. And the reason that we are eager to talk with you about this is because it is sort of the human dysfunctional way, isn't it? In other words, find the problem, figure out what it was, and prevent it from ever happening again. But you don't prevent things you don't want from ever happening again by continuing to discuss them. And we know in this physical orientation, there are so many who would disagree with that. And to this extent, we agree with it too. By understanding what a problem is, or by activating a problem or a question, then a solution or an answer can come, just not at the same time. Because the vibration of what you don't want and the vibration of what you do want are two entirely different vibrations. And so the way to avoid unwanted things is to get in a good feeling place and practice that and practice that and practice that and practice that. There is a certain guardedness that comes with life experience. There are certain things that you've heard or that you talk about. Just being in a different place, in a different climate, in a different environment, eating different foods. There are all kinds of things that you are always adapting to. And so what we're really talking about here is adaptation. Adaptation. And the thing that we are wanting to assist all of you, you've heard it again and again. And as you listen back to the recordings of this wonderful unfolding, you're going to see or hear or acknowledge or witness a consistent theme, which is practice the vibration of wanted and let the vibration of unwanted die of its own natural death. Sometimes that feels counterintuitive, and the reason is because there is contrast that helps you to choose, and sometimes without meaning to, you choose something unwanted. And that's why you want to ask this question, because you get law of attraction and you understand that you are the creator of your own reality, and you understand that all of your power is in the present. And so when you've just lived through something unwanted, we can really understand why you'd want to know, what did I do that caused that to be? Because I don't want to repeat that. And we say, and yet talking about it is holding the vibration active and is making it more likely that you will repeat it. You said, I've lived that before, I don't want to ever live it again. And we say, why not stand in a more relaxed stance, a general stance, which is what you always want to do when you're wanting to bridge or mold beliefs. Just stand in a more general place and say things to yourself such as, that's a rare thing with me. So rare. You want to rarefy unwanted things. Well, how do you rarefy them? Well, talking about using the word rare instead of common sounds like it would cause it to be less. But attention to it when what's active is I don't want it means that whether you use the word rare or whether you use the word common, you're still not rarefying it. You're practicing the momentum of it, you see. And so we think that the reason that you often do that with each other is because you have this flawed belief that goes like this: since you are in my space, I owe you an explanation about anything that you might want to know about me. And so you're just talking so much about yourselves. You're talking so much about yourselves, which is a nice thing if you are in love with you. But if you are talking about yourself in any way that is derogatory or pointed toward an experience of unwanted, it's all right, and it's part of step one, and we're not trying to talk you out of it. Just understand that that's how you keep a momentum going. Eventually, you'll reach this place when you'll say, I cannot even remember the last time I had any discomfort whatsoever. And those around you will say, well, what kind of a weirdo are you? And you can just think to yourself, well, I just hold myself in this place of thinking thoughts that feel good. Do you think that's a possible thing to do? Can you live in this world and point yourself in the direction of wanted? And isn't it easier to do on a week that you haven't been sick? Of course it is. Of course it is. It's easier to do. Conditions do affect you. They still do. And we don't want to pull you out of the conditions of your world completely, because we love seeing you savor so many of the conditions of your world. You just want to know which ones you're savoring and which ones you're savoring and which ones you're savoring and which ones you're savoring, which ones you're savoring, which ones you're savoring. Hear this word: savoring continuing, savoring continuing, savoring continuing, savoring continued. Or which ones you're worrying about, which ones you're worrying about, which ones you're worrying about, which ones you're worrying about. Hear these words: worrying about continuing, worrying about continuing, worrying about continuing. You get what you think about whether you want it or not, you see. And so wouldn't it be nice if you were visiting with someone and they asked you something and you felt the activation of something unwanted coming within you, and you just said, I never talk about that, and then go away. Don't allow yourself to be sucked into that, you see. Enough?
Yeah, I think so.
Something undone?
Well, I guess the question about the, I can see if I look, not looking back to try to make it worse, just kind of seeing the evolution of letting things bunch up before we came to the cruise.
Yeah.
Business taking off and a lot of things going at the same time. I felt like the things I did to prepare to be here, I had to do to be on the other side of when we came back to the cruise, because a lot of stuff was in play. It seems like there's still a softening or a pre-paving that I could do that would help that.
These are the words that we want you to take away from this conversation. Getting out ahead of it, getting out ahead of it, getting out ahead of it. Now, feel the difference between getting out ahead of something vibrationally and getting all your work done before you go so that it won't pile up on you when you come back.
Okay, yeah, right. Feels a little better, yeah.
That's not getting out ahead of it. So what do we mean by getting out ahead of it? So let's just talk about some things that will help you. We know that you live in an action-oriented world, and we know there are things that you believe that you must do. And there are things that when you do them, it is beneficial. There is a lot of doing happening around you to make this time that you are together a wonderful time. In other words, we're not talking about ceasing action. We're talking about letting the action that you are offering be inspired from that receptive mode. We're talking about being so often in the receptive mode that you are resourcefully renewing so that you are not depleted. So what you're describing is what a lot of people have experienced, where you push to try to get ready for everything. But in your pushing, you acknowledge you were depleting. And the reason that you were depleting is because you had some momentum. And of course, you always have some connection to source energy. And of course, there is always replenishment happening to some degree or another. But when you are pushing and trying and efforting and worrying, then you're not letting everything that you're asking for in as you're asking for it. And so it's sort of like water that's coming out of the bottom of the bucket faster than it's going in the top. After a while, the bucket is going to get lower and lower, and in time it's going to run dry, and then you're going to have a day or two where you need the water to replenish a little more. And so if you can get that visual of the happier you are and the less efforting you're offering and the less struggle, then the more you keep that replenishment coming. And in time, you will come to realize that it does not matter where you go or what you are doing. It's always there. Very nice people are around Esther in this hotel. Some she brought with her, some she met since she's been here. And something that someone asked her about this gathering, wanting to know how Esther was doing. And Esther said, I'm having the best time ever. This is just a wonderful experience. And then they were asking, well, do you do this very often? And Esther says, very often. Very often. In fact, I hardly ever stop doing this. I hardly ever am not doing this. This is not just an odd week of meeting. This is just something that I'm always doing. Don't you get tired? No. Don't you get tired of it? No. Why not? Because it's fun. Really, why not? Because I'm in the replenishing mode. In other words, you do not have to ever be depleted. You have access to source energy that is constantly streaming through you. But you have to be in this place where more often than not, you are allowing it to flow. And so you can't just plan a vacation and go have a good time. We want you to always feel like you're on vacation, no matter what it is you are doing. Because you get the fun of choosing to do very little, or you get the fun of choosing to do something that's very interesting. You get the fun of orchestrating your life experience, or you get the fun of taking a little break from it. But what's really going on is that in every moment there is a convergence of you and others and source. And it's always the same. In every moment there's a convergence of you and others and source. In every moment there's a convergence of you and others and source. And so as you accept that this is your life, that this is who you are, that you always have this convergence, and you can be open to it or closed to it, but you're really wanting to pace yourself in a way. And by getting out ahead of it, you know what we mean, don't you? We mean, if you could stop the struggle about anything today, you can't. But if you could, you'd get out ahead of everything. And so the things that you want to say to yourself is, be easy about this. It's all right. Things are taking care of themselves. I've done really well. My vortex is full. Nothing that I really need to do here. Nothing that I really need to do here. Everything that is important will take care of itself. The orchestration is underway. Everything that is important is taking care of itself. I'm just molded into place. I can take care of this in lots of different ways. In other words, talk yourself into a place of feeling ease about your life under any and all conditions. That's really the benefit of a week like this. Because while there is some contrast, it is hotter than you really want it to be, and there are some things that are not exactly as you want them to be, but there are more things as you want them to be than you normally experience. And this is the perfect environment in which to acknowledge the power of your creation and your ability to create week after week after week after week after week after week after week of moving from joy to interest to calm to excitement to enthusiasm to peacefulness to interest to calm. You see what we're getting at? You don't have to dip. Your contrast can move from that calm place of satisfaction and comfort and contentment all the way into ecstasy and enthusiasm. And you don't have to dip into those lower vibrations of overwhelmment and blame and guilt and despair. You never have to go there again. You never have to go there again. You've sifted through the contrast enough and you've created enough that you can ride high on this energy. And it's time for you to do that. Your inner being is aware of you and right there with you, feeding you thoughts of appreciation and pleasure all day, every day. Why not tune into that? Why not that be the receptive mode as you are meeting with others and source and ideas. You see?